Joining me in studio is Kate O'Hara, Community Programs Benefit Director from the East Bay Alliance for Sustainable Economy. Good to have you with us, Kate.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Kate is an Augustana Viking and a UCLA Bruin. And to my beloved Golden Bears, well, I don't know what to say, but we'll move on. Kate, jumping right in, what is the East Bay Alliance for Sustainable Economy?
The East Bay Alliance for Sustainable Economy, or EBASE, is a nonprofit organization working to advance social and economic justice.
Okay.
And we do that by raising standards and building power for working families throughout the East Bay.
Well, it's an interesting mission. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you achieve those aims? I mean, it sounds very commendable, but what does it mean in the layperson's world?
Sure. So what we do essentially is we build coalitions and alliances among labor unions, community groups, and faith organizations to pass policies, so pass new standards that make sure that workers are provided with a living wage and have rights in the workplace.
That certainly makes sense, and listeners, you know how I feel about living wage, particularly here in the Bay Area. It's not only important, it's the right thing to do. Now, Kate, I noticed on your website there are numerous programs that your organization sponsors and involved with. Could you give our listeners a short overview of the programs?
Sure. We have 4 program areas at EBASE. So our first program is our Living Wage and Labor Standards program.
Okay.
And that's in particular where we focus on passing these new living wage laws. And our primary focus is in Alameda and Contra Costa County. And we've been a part of passing 7 living wage ordinances in the cities in the East Bay.
Kudos on that.
Thank you.
That's excellent.
Thank you. So those make sure that workers, particularly workers in low-wage industries like hotels or janitors or security guards, are being paid a fair wage that they can support their family on. So that's our living wage program.
What are the other 3 programs?
The other 3 programs, our second program is our interfaith organizing program.
Okay.
And in this program, we have a committee, an interfaith committee for worker justice, which involves a number of clergy leaders and lay leaders from churches around the East Bay who stand in support of workers trying to improve their workplace conditions.
That certainly makes sense. And again, listeners, you can see why we have the EBASE group on social and environmental justice. It's not just something your favorite talk show host is talking about. Here's another group stressing it. It's the right thing. Sorry about that, Kate. Tell me about the third program.
Sure. The third program is our Workplace Immigrant and Civil Rights program. So this is where we make sure that in the workplace, workers, and in particular any immigrant workers, are not being overtly harassed and being respected to be able to do their job and get their pay.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And the fourth program?
And then the fourth program is our Community Benefits program. And this is the program that I personally work on the most. And this is where we work to ensure that as new development projects are being built, whether they're condos or new stores or new office buildings, that they're being done in a way that gives back to the community, that creates good paying jobs, that makes jobs available to local residents, and creates other community benefits.
Well, I've got to say, Kate, I'm something of a cynic when it comes to government and getting things done, yet you've managed to achieve 7 fair wage bills. How exactly is it the group is doing this? I mean, is it the coalitions, but what else are you doing to get policy through?
We do a number of things. We use a number of different strategies. The coalition building is a central piece of our work. So bringing together different voices that have different amounts of support with decision makers like faith leaders and labor leaders. Those different interest groups have different abilities to influence different decision makers.
Certainly, leverage is important.
Right, but the other pieces that we do that I think are equally as important is our research and our policy advocacy.
Okay.
We have a team of researchers that that are constantly looking into what other cities are doing across the nation, but also developing new policies and figuring out new ways to establish standards in terms of labor standards and local hiring requirements. And so actually writing and developing new policies and new policy arguments that we can bring to decision makers.
So would it be fair to say, Kate, that it's not only policy advocacy, but it's showing that it worked in other areas and the results and benefits to all concerned?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, What other results would you share with our listeners? Certainly the 7 wage bills, I mean that, God, that blows me away just in itself, but what other results would you share with our listeners?
A few of the other recent accomplishments we've been a part of in our Workplace and Immigrant Civil Rights program, we have been working with hotel workers in the city of Emeryville.
The Woodfin.
The Woodfin.
Don't get me started on that.
Which hopefully a lot of your listeners have already heard about. But this is a situation which actually overlaps with one of these living wage laws where a hotel owner was refusing to follow the law and actually fired his workers for standing up for their rights. And so we've been working to ensure, to get the city council in Emeryville to enforce that living wage law, and have done that successfully in terms of the city council has committed to making sure they get the $250,000 that the hotel owes these workers. We haven't gotten the money yet, now it's going to court, but we have achieved some victories with the city council there.
Kate, let's turn to the summit then. The summit is called Building Oakland for Everyone, a summit on jobs, housing, and justice. Now, I can understand a little of the summit. Summit on jobs, certainly, good jobs. Housing, definitely needed. What kind of justice are you talking about, and what is the summit's focus?
So the summit is an opportunity for residents and workers in Oakland to come together and to shape a new strategy for development in Oakland.
There's been quite a bit of it.
There has been quite a bit of new development over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what we've seen is that development hasn't been creating as much benefit for Oakland residents as we would like.
Really?
Yes, you can see downtown Oakland, there's tons of condos going up, right?
Yeah,
The streets
right
are
there.
under construction all over the place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the price of those condos are out of reach for most Oaklanders.
Uh-huh.
And as a result, it's raising the rents in surrounding neighborhoods and forcing a lot of families out.
Now, isn't there a requirement, though, that part of the condos be set aside for low income, or what is the thought on that?
So, unfortunately, the city of Oakland does not have a requirement like that. Many cities, including all in the county of Alameda, have such laws. The city's been debating one for the number of the last few years and has not yet adopted one.
Now, when you speak of justice, is it justice from a housing point of view? Is it justice from a worker's point of view? What kind of justice will you address in the summit, Kate?
We'll be looking at justice. Justice is more the lens that we're looking at a number of issues. So looking at the justice for workers, justice for residents in their ability to find homes they can afford, and also justice in terms of environmental justice, making sure that we're developing Oakland in a way that doesn't compromise our health.
Hey, what does the future look like for your group and for the cause of social and environmental justice?
Well, I should say that that this summit is actually being convened not just by EBASE, but by a coalition that we're a part of, which is called the Oakland Network for Responsible Development, or Onward.
Okay.
And we, along with the community, labor, and environmental groups that are part of Onward, will be continuing to work with the city coming out of the summit to try to implement policies and action steps that would result in the kind of development that working families need.
We got our fingers crossed on this one because it certainly is needed. I applaud you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Final question for you. What really matters?
What really matters for these issues and for Oaklanders in terms of development is to make sure that the city is harnessing the power of new development to create the living wage and family supporting jobs, the affordably priced homes, and the healthy communities that working families and low-income residents need here in Oakland.